The Houthis are choking global commerce, forcing shipping costs to soar. But the real shocker is who they really work for.
And maybe more importantly, why America's great power rivals are cheering from the shadows.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a security crisis that, well, it reveals a fundamental vulnerability in how we've analyzed proxy conflicts for decades.
Right. This story isn't just about Tehran pulling strings anymore. It's about a resilient, anti-American network that is learning to operate with sophisticated and diverse backing.
That is the crucial pivot. The Red Sea crisis has exposed this massive vulnerability in global trade. And this isn't some abstract economic theory. You, the listener, you're the one paying the price for this. We have hard data.
Oh, the data is staggering. Look at the numbers our sources pulled from the Drewry World Container Index. Since the Houthi attacks started, container shipping costs have surged almost fourfold.
Fourfold. What does that mean in real dollars?
We are talking about the price for a single container. It's skyrocketed from around $1,300 to a peak of nearly $6,000, specifically $5,937.
That is a huge burden.
Yeah.
And yet the conventional narrative, the one we always hear in the news, is just, well, it's always the same, isn't it? Blame Iran. They must be the puppet master.
Always. The assumption is that Iran controls this cheap, obedient proxy. But when you move past that headline, when you really look at the intelligence and the analysis in our sources, you find two deeply political and conflicting claims.
And neither one confirms that simple puppet scenario.
Not at all.
So that really defines our mission for this deep dive. We have to figure out which narrative holds more weight. Is Iran losing control over a rogue partner, a lost cause, as some have called them?
Or is what we're seeing a brilliant strategic deception, something designed to mask a far more dangerous multipolar threat, in fact, not just by Tehran, but also by Moscow and Beijing?
The answer changes the entire defense calculus in the Middle East.
To understand the complexity, we have to start with that central tension. We have these conflicting reports coming out, even from within Iran's own orbit, about how reliable the Houthis really are.
Okay, so let's start with that first narrative, the idea that the Houthis are just a liability, the lost cause theory.
Right. So early in 2025, during a period of heavy U.S. retaliatory strikes, reports started surfacing that Iran was actually pulling military advisors out of Yemen.
And the reason given was to avoid escalation with the U.S., right?
That was the stated reason. And this wasn't just quiet repositioning. Iranian sources were unusually blunt. They reportedly called the Houthis a lost cause, believing they were living their final months or even days.
Which means a picture of Iran's axis of resistance starting to crumble, after losses by Hezbollah and the mess with the Assad regime in Syria.
Exactly. A desperate Tehran cutting ties with unreliable partners. But then the evidence gets complicated. Our sources show that Iran recently had to dispatch a top Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commander, an IRGC commander, directly to Sana'a.
Why do that if they're a lost cause?
Well, the goal was to try and bring the Houthis back in line. It seems that even if they did pull some people out, they quickly realized they couldn't afford to lose that leverage.
So the commander's message was what? Get with the program.
Essentially, yes. That they needed to cooperate more than before. Because despite the setbacks, the Houthis are one of the last sort of solid groups in Iran's network.
And this movement, this desperation, it points us directly toward that second, more cynical narrative, the idea of calculated ambiguity.
Precisely. This view dismisses all that talk about withdrawal or a lost cause as just diplomacy by the headline.
Or tactical storytelling.
Right. It's strategic. The idea that Iran would let a group have such advanced missile and drone technology clearly supplied without any form of control it strains credulity.
So you're saying the ambiguity isn't an accident, it's manufactured?
It's the whole point.
Yeah.
Iran publicly claims non-involvement, yet everything the Houthis do aligns perfectly with the goals of the axis of resistance.
Which serves one purpose: plausible deniability.
Exactly. If Iran denies operational control, they deny accountability. It is a feature of their regional strategy, not a bug. They get all the benefits of the chaos without facing the risk that using their own forces would bring.
We saw how powerful that is. A senior Houthi official just openly mocked the idea of deployed Iranians, saying Iran only mediates sometimes.
And that statement is so telling. It perfectly reinforces the shield that stops the West from responding directly against Iran itself. This is the core of proxy warfare. You outsource the risk. You impose massive costs on the global economy without risking a single Iranian soldier.
Okay, so that brings us to the really dangerous part of this analysis. Let's say we accept this idea of calculated ambiguity,
Yeah.
that the Houthis are independent partners just aligned with Iran. Doesn't that make them less dangerous than if Tehran was controlling them 24/7?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But our sources show the exact opposite is true. Houthi autonomy makes them more aggressive, more unpredictable. Well, if you use a rigorous definition, a proxy needs some mechanism of control from the sponsor. The Houthis just don't fit that. They're partners or allies.
Even with all the Iranian weapons?
Even then, Iran lacks that decisive day-to-day control. And the proof is in their actions. They often act based on their own agenda, sometimes even against Tehran's interests.
Like what? Give me an example.
Look back at 2019, the Houthis struck a unilateral ceasefire deal with Saudi Arabia.
And that was bad for Iran because
Because Tehran benefits from instability on the Saudi border. It keeps Riyadh distracted and tied down. A ceasefire was a stabilizing move that ran counter to Iran's goal of keeping the pressure on.
so they put their own survival first.
Always. That one move shows they prioritize their own political game over Tehran's directives. They are, and I'm quoting the analysis here, a more unpredictable and aggressive actor than their Iranian backers.
And all their attacks on shipping, the attacks toward Israel, that's not just for Iran, that's for their audience at home.
That's the core insight. They do it to boost their domestic credibility in Yemen. After years of airstrikes, they use these high-profile attacks to show they're still strong, that they've mastered this advanced weaponry. It's an internal political play.
Which leads to a pretty severe indictment of Western strategy then. Trying to solve the Houthi problem just by putting pressure on Iran. Our sources say that approach is doomed to fail.
And the reason is clear. The Houthis work to minimize their dependence. Their main drivers are internal to Yemen: legitimacy, survival. Even if Iran cut them off tomorrow, the Houthis would endure.
So ignoring their autonomy just downplays the Houthis' threat and obscures the solution.
Yeah.
If you only target the sponsor, you're only solving half the problem.
At best.
Now, if that wasn't dangerous enough, here's where the conversation moves beyond just Iran. This isn't just about the axis of resistance anymore. It's about a new, distributed network backed by America's main geopolitical rivals.
We are absolutely witnessing the rise of a trilateral threat. The Houthis are diversifying their support, creating this complex web that is so much harder for the U.S. to disrupt. This isn't just opportunistic. The sources are framing this as a long-term strategic investment in destabilization.
An investment designed to create chaos while staying out of the line of fire. It's a model that builds in redundancy. So if Iran gets hit with sanctions or is cut off, the Houthis can just pivot.
And the three powers, Iran, Russia, and China, they play these very complementary roles.
Let's break that down. So Iran is still the foundation.
Right. Iran provides the ideological cohesion, the media support, the access branding,
Then Russia comes in with.
hard military expertise. We have specific reports of Russian military experts advising in Sana'a, and crucially, they provide diplomatic cover on the world stage, blocking action at the UN.
And China, what's their role?
China provides the economic depth, and maybe more importantly, a kind of global legitimacy. Beijing maintains this careful diplomatic balance, publicly calling for de-escalation.
While privately making sure their own ships are safe.
Exactly. We have hard evidence of this coordination. While American and European ships are being attacked, China and Russia have quietly secured safe passage through the Red Sea. That's not an accident. That suggests tactical coordination.
And then there was that conference in Sana'a.
Right. In March 2025, you had Moscow-based influencers and Chinese state personalities attending a solidarity conference at the Houthis' invitation. That is a very clear, very public signal of a growing diplomatic alignment.
So the strategic outcome of this distributed model is, well, it's deeply worrying for national security. It diffuses attribution and accountability. Who do you even blame?
And for U.S. defense planners, the implications are immediate. The resources available to groups like the Houthis have dramatically increased. They're getting advanced weaponry and military training from a much deeper well now.
This is great power competition in the 21st century. Instead of a direct conflict, our rivals just subcontract the chaos to an aggressive partner who's already on the field.
It's a strategy built on low cost for high returns. It lets Moscow and Beijing benefit from the disruption of U.S. interests without ever seeing a single casualty of their own.
So we started this deep dive asking if the Houthis were a puppet or a partner. The evidence overwhelmingly points toward a highly autonomous, aggressive partner.
A partner who is now leveraging a complex multilateral sponsorship for survival and escalation.
The U.S. simply cannot look at this as a bilateral problem with Iran anymore. Not when our biggest rivals are providing essential complementary support. The old definition of proxy just doesn't apply.
The game has changed. It requires a whole new playbook.
So, given that this kind of warfare is so attractive because it minimizes political cost and scrutiny, here's the final provocative thought for you to consider. How can the U.S. effectively counter a distributed sponsorship model where Beijing and Moscow benefit from the Houthis' chaos-choking global trade, imposing massive economic costs without ever shedding a drop of their own blood?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Addressing the local threat while neutralizing a global support network.
That is the 21st century challenge to maritime and economic security that this new axis of resistance presents. Join us next time on The Deep Dive.